People keep trying to sell me on Texas State to the Pac-12. I don't see it.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. Brought to you today by our friends over at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. So, Ryan Day's got a huge, and I mean monstrous, annual salary now. There's only one guy with a bigger salary than that. How USC is a contender in the Big Ten. Not this year. All coming up on today's show. But I'll start with Texas State. This idea gets thrown at me no less than 40 times a week, that this is going to be the Pac-12's next full-time member. They've got to get one. They've got to have one by 2026. That move should be announced here sometime, eventually. I don't think it needs to be by next week or the week after, but these conversations have been ongoing for a while. Two reasons that I seriously doubt Texas State winds up being the final full-time member for the Pac-12. Reason number one, they've already turned them down. And I don't think the landscape has significantly changed to the point where they would then decide, okay, let's say this is a better offer now. Let's say the Pac-12 came up with a better offer. Oh, wait, we can't go, let's say that. What would it be? What has changed? Back in October, both the Mountain West and the Pac-12 were courting Texas State. Discussions were had, according to Pete Thamel of ESPN. And Texas State said, no, we're in the Sun Belt. We're good. We're trying to build something over here. We don't need to introduce a bunch of newness to all of our schools, football in particular, that under G.J. Kinney has had a couple of nice seasons, no doubt. He won a Southland championship at Incarnate Word and then made the jump to Texas State after 1 year there. And, well, he's doing a pretty darn good job. 8 wins each of the last couple of years, upward trajectory. But that offer, or the idea of an offer, there wasn't one that actually materialized from the Pac-12, according to the report from Thamel, but the Mountain West made a pitch, and they said, no, we're good. Now, which football league would I rather be in 2026? Pac-12 or the Mountain West? It's the Pac-12. That's not even really close at this point, since the Pac-12 just took the best teams that the Mountain West has. But has that calculus changed? They knew that at the time. They had the ability to say, well, we're the only school bringing Texas to the table, which is, I think, where a lot of people's heads are at, which I understand, but I don't think we're going to get there. More on that in a moment. If they're deciding, no, we're good in the Sun Belt, we want to try and make ourselves into something here, I don't know that the landscape has shifted significantly enough. Unless the Pac-12 was only poking around, they never made a full-fledged offer, and they could go now and give them media rights numbers based on the discussions they're reportedly having with ESPN, Fox, and CBS, who want a Pac-12 media rights contract. Those things are all, fluid, up in the air. Okay, sure, I will definitely grant you that. But they said no once. Here's the second reason, though. Texas State does not bring some mega value that doesn't already exist for the Pac-12. They're the same as every other kind of member that's going to be added. If the Pac-12, which according to reports it has, is already beginning its media rights discussions, then anybody they add is going to do the same thing. It's just another member to get you to the necessary 8 full-time members starting in 2026, plus they'll have Gonzaga for basketball starting that season as well. No one's moving the needle. If they're talking now and trying to figure out what the numbers are, maybe they're getting a valuation on this team or that team, or school, I should say. We know football is driving the bus, but presidents vote on realignment, on my gravestone when I die, please. And that's maybe a consideration there, but the general consensus is whoever they're adding is not going to be an accretive, value-adding institution for the media rights contract. So if that's the case, what are you then looking for if you're the Pac-12? You want to build the strongest conference possible, or the one that is the most feasible for the members of your league, because you've already got an incredibly strong core. The Pac-12 is lining up to be the premier Group of 5 conference in the country starting in 2026. a lineup that has got Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, San Diego State with Sean Lewis is building up, Colorado State under Coach Norvell, they're moving in the right direction. But at the very least, those first 5 schools I listed with Fresno in there, kind of being the 5th with Oregon State and Washington State, there's not another group of 5 conference that has the same level of depth. Not when your top 3 are Oregon State, Washington State, Boise from a program branding standpoint. That you can't top that anywhere else, not even in the American, where you have plenty of good teams. No doubt about it. It's number 2. Pac-12 would still be stronger there, in my view. So that's the selling point that you would give to Texas State. But is that worth the extra travel? Is having just a presence in Texas that important? Because that's where people look, and this has been discussed and floated before by legitimate reporters previously about, could Texas State be an option? It's not a crazy idea. I don't think you're ridiculous, off your rocker, trolling or anything like that if you're suggesting, hey, this should be the option the Pac-12 goes after. But some of you see this as the home run, no-brainer addition. Got to make this move. How have you not done it yet? And I'm going, okay, first of all, they already decided they weren't really that interested. Second of all, this past season in college football, they ranked 94th in television viewership. Is the presence in Texas doing that much for you? Because Boise is going to be among your most watched teams year in and year out, and they're in, Boise, Idaho? Having a presence in Texas, it's not a bad thing. There's certainly upside there. I don't know that it's significant enough to add a program that is only just now starting to become a relevant football team and proving they can win in a respectable conference, which the Sun Belt absolutely is. But when they're that much of a wild card and you're introducing geographic challenges, because remember, your football team isn't just going to have to go there. Every other team has to go there. You have to figure out who their travel partner is going to be in this new look conference. What are you going to do with that? Who's the most logical partner there? At that point, if Texas State is not going to bring any additional media rights value that makes money for your league, which I don't believe they can based on the information that is available to us right now, then you're more well suited as the Pac-12 to go out and add Nevada or San Jose State. Even before a UNLV. I don't think Nevada and San Jose State ever got a Pac-12 offer or a serious look because they haven't been high in athletic departments. But you know what? Every conference needs a Vanderbilt. You got to beat somebody. Someone has to finish in last place. It's not like those places have proven totally incapable of ascending to the top of a league, but it would certainly be a significant challenge. From a resource standpoint, those two would be towards, either one would be at the bottom or towards the bottom of the new look Pac-12. So for the Pac-12, you already have a cadre of teams that give you a certain credibility. Going out and finding the one that, can bring another competitive team in there might actually be a bad thing. It might be bad to look for a program as your 8th and final member that you think could win a conference championship one day. You might be at the point, and that's maybe a longer consideration, but you might be at the point, if you're Teresa Gold, the Pac-12 commissioner, where you want to make sure that your teams, this was a big selling point, or at least should be if it wasn't, or it should have been if it wasn't, but I imagine it was, a big selling point of this conference is your access to the playoff is going to be very real. That if you win this league, you are going to be a major consideration for the highest ranked Group of 5 conference champion. You bring in Boise State that was just in the playoff before you made this shift. That's helping with the branding and credibility of your league. But do you need to go out and get another playoff caliber school? Or do you need to make sure the schools are playoff caliber or you believe can get to that level will have the opportunity to do so and make it easier on you as a league so that you don't have to travel all over the place? We've already seen plenty of belly aching, surprise, surprise, with these national conferences and the big travel that is out there. Particularly in basketball, UCLA head coach Mick Cronin has spoken about it. There have been some words that have come out of Cal, and there's been more belly aching behind the scenes because guess what? It's not that much fun to go on these huge, long cross-country road trips. And San Marcos is in between Austin and San Antonio. It's not a major metropolitan area. They don't have incredible TV viewership or remarkable football history that's too good to just turn down bringing into your conference. I see the angle. Is it better than bringing in no team? Yeah, of course, because you have to bring in a team. But overall, the negatives to me outweigh the positives for Texas State. If you view them as an up and comer, I don't know that that's what you want. Maybe you think if they joined the Pac-12, they'd regress back to what they've been for the most part since they started playing FBS football in 2012, which has been a bottom dweller in their league. But they've said that they don't bring a whole heck of a lot of media rights value, or any for that matter. And I don't know that the travel would make it worth it. So Texas State, I get why it's on people's minds. I don't think this is going to be the top option. I think UNLV is where the Pac-12 would most like to go for their 8th full member. Preliminary thoughts in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter. Do you know who the second highest paid coach in college football is now? It's Ryan Day. It's Ryan Day. And boy, the 12-team playoff changed his life. First, this episode brought to you by Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 players' projections, and if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw 1 yard to win. Pair that with one more correct pick, boom, you're cashing out. Check out the promos tab to nail any of the super sweet Millie winners, big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. The 12-team playoff changed Ryan Day's life. Jay Stevens of Locked On Buckeyes is here to discuss that with me because there's no other way to describe this new contract, Jay, than a life-altering amount of money, and we'd be having a different Ohio State coaching contract conversation if the 12-team playoff hadn't been around. And hey, that's the world we're in. You play the hand that is dealt to you. Ryan Day did that, and here we are. He's the second highest paid coach in all of college football who had a lot of people, a non-zero number, calling for his job, 2 months ago?
Yeah, something like that, about 2 months ago, and he flipped that thing around and turned the page and turned the tide, all the little things we can describe what happened in the playoff, and Ryan Day went on a miraculous run, one of the best runs you've seen in college football history, and all of a sudden, he is now the second highest paid coach in college football. He signed an extension now being with Ohio State through 2031, getting $12.5 million per year. Ryan Day got paid. That man did what he had to do to get that Brinks truck backed up to his house. And he deserves it. Like, when you do what he did, and you've been at Ohio State for 6 full seasons, and you've adapted to every single change at Ohio that college football has thrown at Ryan Day, you get rewarded with stuff like this. Kirby Smart is one of the 2 coaches. I believe Dabo has 2 national championship wins. I know Kirby has 2.
Yes.
And so now Ryan Day's in an even more exclusive company because he's one of 3 active coaches to have won a national championship. He's done everything that he's needed to do. He has adapted to college football. He has kept Ohio State at a top tier when you're following a Hall of Famer in Urban Meyer, and he's kept that thing, sustained it, recruiting at a high level every single year. I mean, what more can you ask for? You won your first national championship in 6 seasons. You're at Ohio State. It's one of the best jobs in the sport. The new AD is throwing everything you want. You want something financially? I'll give it to you. He is putting so much money and resources into the football program, even talk about doing some renovations to Ohio Stadium to make that more of a better experience for fans that attend Ohio State football games. Everything right now Ryan Day has done has helped build towards this moment, and he's earned every penny.
When the extension was announced, what was your first reaction?
That man got paid. It goes back to the statements I made earlier. It's the fact that you're getting paid $12.5 million a year. Also, like, even before that, though, through 2031, his old contract, he would have been up in 2028, Ryan Day, during the national championship celebration and all these interviews he's done, he's talked about how much he loves Ohio State, that his family is there, his kids are in school, and that he wants to stay in Ohio. So getting him through 2031, extending that old contract for 3 years, that's a huge, massive benefit to keep him through a lot of big, tough games that Ohio State's going to play over the next few years and in the non-conference slate as the playoff expands. We've seen Ryan Day expand and adapt and not die when other schools have died in the season because they can't adapt to the new playoff format. I think Ryan Day is the right guy for the job in Columbus, Ohio, and he is locked up for a very long time. And I wouldn't be shocked, Spencer, if in 3 or 4 years they lock him up till 2035 or 2036, because in that time span, he could win another national championship. My guess is he'll win at least one Big Ten championship game, and those things are reasons why ADs want to keep a college football coach around.
Two thoughts that popped in my head when I saw this whole contract come out. The first one was, have you ever seen that movie Trainwreck with Amy Schumer and Bill Hader?
I have not.
Okay, it's older. It's a very funny movie. There's a great scene where LeBron James, Akron native, of course.
Yeah.
Akron? Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Akron, you're correct.
Yeah. He is having dinner with his friend, Bill Hader. And LeBron then looks at Bill Hader, who's got a character name on the show that I forget, and says, hey, we're going to split the check. And Bill Hader looks at him like, no, we're not. You're LeBron James. Come on, you're picking up. And then he acts like he forgot his wallet in the car. Ryan Day is now LeBron James in that scenario. Every single dinner that he goes out to with a friend, it's that's you, buddy. You got the tab. You're picking that one up, because no one's gonna say, what, you short on change? Because I'm doing fine with my family here, but this $100 meal doesn't mean as much to me as it does to you. So that was my first thought. Second thought, though, 7-year extension, $12.5 million a year. What are the odds he wins a national championship in your view before that extension has fully run its course?
They're pretty high. I think he can win one between this upcoming season and the 2031, whenever that contract season ends. I think he can win one. I realistically do, because he could have, he won one in the first 6 years he was at Ohio State. He probably could have won more. Let's just being real with the talent that he had. And if they would have managed some things differently, he probably could have 2 under his bag. And then over the next 7 years, could he win one? Absolutely. Absolutely he can. I think Kirby could win one. I think Dabo could get another one. Stuff has to change for him in Clemson. But I think Dabo could get one in that window too. But absolutely, I think Ryan Day can win at least one. Could be 2 in that time span.
Ryan Day is now free from a number of critiques that he's faced over the years, and one of which is the classic college football fan reaction. Well, what has he won? What has he ever really won? And you can't say that about him. Now, of course, there are only 2 other coaches, the guys you mentioned, that you can say that about when you're talking about winning a national championship, Dabo and Kirby, and that's it. I guess there are only 3 good coaches in all of college football, Jay. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? There are only 3 good ones in the entire sport. But sometimes Ed Orgeron at LSU comes to mind here, and I don't think Ryan Day is that. But a coach has lightning in a bottle come to fruition, gets a big contract extension, and then a year or 2 into it, everyone's going, oh no, this is wrong. That was just a magical run, and well, we have been fleeced as an athletic department for money. Any chance that happens with Ryan Day here?
I don't think so. I truly don't. And as you say that, I think about Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M when he got that massive payday. Ryan Day's boss is a guy that gave Jimbo Fisher that payday. And that thought entered my head this afternoon as I'm thinking about Ryan Day getting paid.
I did not know that. I legitimately did not know that.
Yeah. Ross Bjork was AD at A&M when Jimbo Fisher got paid. And the difference there is Jimbo's success was at Florida State. He had success at A&M a little bit, but he didn't win a national championship. Yes, a little bit. He didn't win a national championship, and he was really never in contention to get one. Ryan Day, in every single season, has had Ohio State in contention to win a national championship, not just preseason, but throughout the season, Ryan Day has had Ohio State right there. Here's the one kicker. You got to beat Michigan. Like, that's still something he has to do. He has to beat Michigan. But in a year where you don't beat Michigan, if you get a ring at the end of the day by winning the national championship, we've had this conversation numerous times, Spencer. That's what matters. I don't think you're going to get a Jimbo Fisher out after a couple years of signing a big contract, or Ed Orgeron, same thing. I don't think that, because of Ryan Day's track record of success at Ohio State, the level that he's playing on, the program being at the top in recruiting, in quarterback play, in defense. I can go across the board. Ohio State's at the top of a lot of lists. And I think because of that, that's a big reason why I think Ryan Day is going to sustain this and maybe even take Ohio State to another level if they can get there. I think another level is winning a Big Ten title and winning multiple national championships. Then you're going into
I don't even think the Big Ten title is another level. That's just a...
Well, you lose it. Well, you don't win it 4 years in a row.
It's just something else. Yeah, but I mean, who cares? You won a national championship. Who cares about the Big Ten?
Good point.
That's what the 12-team playoff has done for us. But Jay Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes, always doing great work. Speaking of coaching extensions that fan bases have come to regret in short order, I'm going to talk about Lincoln Riley next and how he contends in the Big Ten. First, though, let's talk about FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. Fly, Eagles, fly. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, Patrick Mahomes, or even betting on the coin toss heads, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from the kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Even someone like me that isn't as technologically adept as I should be can navigate it. Plus, you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl. That's icing on the cake. So go and eat your cake. Let them have cake, as someone said once upon a time. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Lincoln Riley can make USC a Big Ten contender. Just not right now. There are too many hurdles to jump over for a one-season turnaround, because when he came in to USC ahead of the 2022 season, left Oklahoma for the Alamo Bowl against Oregon, and they won that game, but who cares? Lincoln Riley's gone and all that. He comes in 1 year, brings in a bunch of transfers, including but not limited to Caleb Williams, who wins the Heisman Trophy. They're in the Pac-12 championship game. They lose that. They lose to Tulane, but you think, okay, well, this has just established a really high floor, and certainly things are going to keep going up, and that hasn't happened. They have regressed in each of the subsequent years. And this year, I thought they would be better. They went 6-6. I had them at 9-3. Why? Because of D'Anton Lynn, their defensive coordinator, who was every bit as good as I thought he would be. USC's points per game this year went from 34, just over in 2023, to just over 24. A one-season jump like that, they brought in some transfers. Guys like Kamari Ramsey, who were playmakers on the back end of the defense. He just went across town from UCLA. I think the Trojans have brought in some quality transfers. They've also had a lot of guys leave. I'll touch on that more in a moment. But D'Anton Lynn wasn't the problem. My faith in him was absolutely rewarded. The numbers bore that out. It was Lincoln Riley's offense that didn't live up to the billing, that was just something that we have not really seen from a Lincoln Riley coached offense. The problem that USC ran into and where they need to build toward, they are still incredibly capable of recruiting at a higher level than they do, and being a better overall football program, and being a Big Ten championship contender year in and year out. The potential for a team in Los Angeles, the team in Los Angeles, is still there. The problem is USC has not built their high school recruiting classes in the way that they need to. There are plenty of talented guys that have rolled through. A lot of them have since transferred out, and I can tell you from people involved in covering USC football, they're not all that upset about the 21 outgoing transfers, because it's easy to look at that disparity and say there's a trade deficit of sorts with the portal. USC has brought in 11 transfers. They have had 21 go out. Oh my gosh, it's in a state of free fall. It'd be really easy for me to come on here and disingenuously paint that picture, but that's not how I roll. So the guys who they have had leave, they're not upset about it. Doesn't mean they wanted every single guy to go. There are a couple I'm sure they look at and go, boy, I wish we could have kept him around. But they have again brought in a top 20 transfer portal class, and I think they have been very smart with a couple of their additions. But the way that USC was built in 2022 was Caleb Williams is amazing, and he's just going to go make all these plays. And then that ran out of magic for the 23 season. They took a step back. They didn't have him there at all, and all of a sudden it was a problem. Here's where USC needs to get to. Here's where Lincoln Riley needs to get to for USC to become a Big Ten championship contender again. He needs to remind himself how his offenses worked at Oklahoma. Yes, they created explosive plays in the passing game. Yes, he's been a quarterback whisperer, and I could not have foreseen after the LSU game that Miller Moss would be benched by the end of the year. Didn't ever feel like he was the problem necessarily, but he also wasn't the solution in the way I and others thought he might be. But this past season, USC ran for 200 or more yards one time. They had 197 against Notre Dame, the national runners-up, who, what do you know, they were competitive and down one score, driving for the tie, and Jaden Mayava threw a pick six. He's likely the starter next year for the Trojans, has got plenty of potential. But what you have at quarterback doesn't matter if the trench play doesn't improve on both sides of the ball. And that's where USC's focus needs to be on the recruiting trail. And there was a hot moment where they had a couple of big-time defensive line commits who since decommitted and went elsewhere towards mostly towards the SEC. But what I appreciated when that happened was, look, I don't know if they're going to keep Justice Terry committed. They didn't, a 5-star defensive lineman. But I appreciate that USC's going after those caliber of guys, or that caliber of guys again. Because that's where USC has been severely lacking. In Lincoln Riley's last year at Oklahoma, 2021, the final game they ran for a bunch of yards with, Lincoln Riley scheme players and all that sort of stuff against Oregon in the Alamo Bowl, so you can take that with a grain of salt. But there were 6 games that season in which Oklahoma ran for at least 200 yards on the ground. 6 of them. 6. That's about half the season. They played 13 games that year. They had 2 games where they eclipsed 300 yards on the ground, including the Texas game, the Red River Shootout. In 2021, Lincoln Riley went for over 300 on the ground. How about that? That's an unfathomable thought for USC in the last couple of years because they have focused very heavily on getting skill position guys, a lot of whom have transferred out. Others, like Makai Lemon, are still around. Tremendously talented dude. And I will never look at a program, no matter what you are or what you need to be, and say, well, if you have a chance to go and get 2 4-star offensive linemen or Makai Lemon, well, you should just turn down Lemon every time. No, he's an incredibly talented wide receiver. Was USC's best and most consistent over this past year. But when I look at USC, they are missing in the trenches on the defensive line and in the trenches on the offensive line. They don't even feel like they're close to where their ceiling is. They're at like a 2 out of 10 in the trenches compared to what they are fully capable of. Well, now they go out in this 25 cycle and they're willing to do whatever it took to get Jakeem Stewart, who's a highly rated defensive lineman, that reclassified from the 26 cycle. Oregon was after him. Oregon recruits defensive linemen as well as anyone in the country over the last couple of cycles. And USC went to get him, I can tell you. In Eugene, that was kind of a head-turning moment from a fan standpoint where people were going, he went to USC? Really? Defensive guy? Yeah. Make the investment. Make the commitment. Go out and get those sorts of guys. They brought in a couple of transfer defensive linemen from the SEC this offseason in Keyshawn Silver and Jamal Jarrett. That's great. But we know the bulk of the roster is built through high school recruiting. They brought in a couple interior offensive line transfers via the portal that, according to 24/7 Sports, grade as 4-star guys. That's great. That's great. Long term, though, I want to see USC beef up their recruiting on the offensive line and along the defensive line. I want in a couple years, if they're going to be a Big Ten championship contender, or for me to see them that way, I want them to have stacked a couple of classes where you're bringing in 4- and 5-star offensive, defensive linemen. They develop for a year or two, or maybe some guys are ready to play early. And then by the 26 or 27 season, you look at it and go, yeah, a lot of homegrown recruits of sorts. They won't all be from USC's backyard, of course, but a lot of guys that were recruited and developed at USC with a priority on we have to be better up front. I mentioned the offensive line struggles. In USC's 6 losses this past year, here are the rushing yards that they allowed. Only one time was it under 100 yards. 290, that was against Michigan. 193, 118, 56, 113, 258. There's an anomaly in there, but over 250 yards twice, another over 190. You are the University of Southern California. Should not happen. So that's where I want them to get to, because in the long run, I don't worry about Lincoln Riley not being able to coach a quarterback or recruit good wide receivers or have capable running backs. They can do all that. But if they're running behind an offensive line that's getting pushed around, or if the defensive line is allowing 290 yards in a game on the ground against Michigan, even against a great running team, shouldn't happen. You hold them to 220 in that game and USC wins. And that's not even a good day. So that's where the focus has to be. That is how Lincoln Riley gets USC back to being back to being a conference championship contender. Now a member of the Big Ten, just as we all anticipated 3 years ago. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.